everyone. Welcome to UrbanU. I'm Tina Beth Pina right here at Brooklyn College.
And I'm Ari Goldberg. On this month's show, we'll take you to CUNY campuses across the entire city.
That's right. We have an award-winning filmmaker from John Jay, a Hunter College professor who makes solar panels, a Brooklyn College professor who's uncovered ancient graffiti in Israel, and that's only a few of our stories.
One of the hardest things about natural disasters is that while the news cameras are only there a couple weeks, recovery can take years. But after Hurricane Maria, Mancha Lopez of Hunter College has been working to make sure Puerto Ricans can keep their power on, even in the wake of natural disaster, with affordable, portable solar energy.
The solar panel project in Puerto Rico was initiated after Hurricane Maria that struck the island in the fall of 2017.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Monzo. Thank you, everybody.
There we have the arms. A lot of the relief that was going to Puerto Rico was basically different companies seeing the situation as a business opportunity, as a way of taking roots in Puerto Rico to make money out of the tragedy. So I decided that I wasn't going to participate in any of that. I decided that the best way to go about it was to learn myself, because it's really not rocket science.
Angel Moncho Lopez is a professor of Latino studies at Hunter College. He is also very active in the Puerto Rican community in New York. He's been involved in everything from local anti-displacement efforts to organizing free children's libraries in Puerto Rico itself. And in the wake of Hurricane Maria, devastating an infrastructure that was already weakened by a prolonged financial crisis, he has turned his attention toward creating affordable, portable solar power.
This is a relatively small system, but it powers like the basic appliances of a modern house, meaning that it can power a fridge, it can power fans, it can power computers. The idea is for people to be able to take power with them wherever they are. So the panels themselves were like posters. They weighed no more than 2 pounds. So you could like literally take the 5 panels under your arm and just go wherever you needed to go with them. And also, the battery is the size of a lunchbox. So you literally can take that battery, and if you are visiting a friend or your grandma or whatnot.
And with that, despite having no electrical or engineering training, Lopez was able to research online forums and rely on his community network to develop and test solar prototypes in local community gardens. Prototypes that were much more practical for the average Puerto Rican family.
It's not able to power, for example, an AC or a dryer. But I was thinking basically about, I lived in Puerto Rico all my life, so I know the kind of appliances that are necessary in Puerto Rico. The appliances that are needed, like to keep insulin at the right temperature, to keep medications.
When we think of solar power, we often think of giant, bolted-down rooftop installations. But the beauty of Moncho's system is that it's not some permanent facility. He instead custom orders small batteries built to his specifications from China. Because of that, you can connect the panels to the battery to charge it up in one place and then take the battery where you need it. It's got USB outlets to power small electronics directly, and also a port with the same kind of outlet you'd see in a car's cigarette lighter, which you can adapt to plug in just about anything you want to power. In practice, it's solar power in a briefcase.
My system, it's $2,000. You can power the basics. The other systems, true, they can power a whole house, but they were $45,000, $50,000, meaning that at the end, with property prices in Puerto Rico, like the house that my family owns in Puerto Rico, that it's equal or more than the value of the house.
Lopez has only manufactured a few units so far, with the hope to procure funding for larger scale production. Because indeed, months after the hurricane and long after the news crews have moved on, there is still much work to be done for the Puerto Rican community.
It may not look like a whole lot, but in a disaster, when a 14-pound box the size of a lunchbox can power a whole home, proof that big solutions can come in small packages. I'm Ari Goldberg for UrbanU.
Many people think that graffiti got its start in the Bronx in the 1970s, but one Brooklyn College professor uncovered that people have been writing graffiti since ancient times right in the Middle East. Mike Gilliam reports.
You could call Professor Karen Stern a history detective. She investigates how Jews lived in ancient times during Hellenistic, Roman, and Byzantine rule. She turns to graffiti for clues.
A lot of times when people are investigating ancient Jewish history, even if they're investigating sort of the broader cultural context of ancient Jews, they look to ancient texts, rabbinic writings, writings of Josephus, Philo, and I do that.
But Stern is most interested in learning about how Jews lived day to day with their Christian and pagan neighbors in the land surrounding the Mediterranean Sea.
Most people weren't elite enough to write long treatises that would be lucky enough to survive until today. Not all Jews in antiquity were part of the rabbinic movements. So graffiti are the types of things that tell us about how people used the environments they lived in. So it could be inside their homes, it could be inside the marketplaces. People wrote graffiti inside hippodromes, synagogues, and burial caves.
Stern is the first person who's done this extensive research, which CUNY helped to fund. She's put her findings in a new book, Writing on the Wall, Graffiti and the Forgotten Jews of Antiquity.
So Jews would, for example, use graffiti as a form of prayer. They would write graffiti inside synagogues. They would write them on open cliffs. By writing them, they would really be sending messages to the divine. And often they did so next to their non-Jewish neighbors. Jews were also using burial caves in ways that we hadn't imagined. Jews were not supposed to spend a lot of time around the dead.
But Stern found they left messages and pictures for the dead and for others visiting the cave.
So this is an image from Beit Sharim, where I did a lot of my research. It's about 20 kilometers away from modern Haifa. And this is the outside of Catacomb 20, which is a place where hundreds of people were buried in antiquity. One of them, my favorite, is a message in Greek that was across a cave entrance that says, "Good luck on your resurrection." So that seems to have been a message to directly address the dead who are being brought into the caves.
Another of Stern's major insights, Jews had better relationships with their neighbors than scholars and writers have led us to believe.
These graffiti tell us that Jews were very much part of the social fabric of these cities. In Tyre and modern Lebanon, in regions of Asia Minor, so modern Turkey, inside hippodromes, theaters, places like this, where if Jews were really so isolated from society, they wouldn't have shown up in those places. And they certainly did, and they made their marks, literally, inside those spaces and reserved their own seats for themselves.
People have studied the graffiti in Pompeii and Egypt, as well as pilgrimage writings and drawings throughout the Holy Land and Lebanon. But because the study of the graffiti of ancient Jews has been neglected, Stern has had to rely on records from earlier explorers. She was given the opportunity to do her own field work in Greece, Lebanon, and Israel to document new examples.
One of the reasons why I enjoy this type of field work is because when you enter one of these spaces, let's say you're descending a ladder balanced on a fig tree that is sort of placed over the entrance to a quarry, and you're able to finally access a burial cave that people used repeatedly for their families in antiquity. Once you get there, whether you've read about it before or not, it's almost like you have arrived in another time. And you know that there are big gaps between the world we inhabit today and the world of antiquity. But in a way, you enter these spaces and time collapses. And you're able to begin to look at traces of how ancient people lived day to day, how they use these spaces, and nothing that can replace that for me. It's a very special feeling, and it's one that you can't recreate in the library.
I'm Mike Gilliam for UrbanU.
We chose to come to Brooklyn College today because for this month's For the Record, we wanted to be at the home of one of CUNY's most famous authors.
March 17th is St. Patrick's Day. A lot of people see it as mainly an opportunity to share a drink, or several. But at its core, St. Patrick's Day is a celebration of Irish heritage. So, in the spirit of the holiday, we wanted to share a profile in Irish culture. Pulitzer Prize-winning author of Angela's Ashes and Brooklyn College graduate, Frank McCourt. The story of Frank McCourt, as told in his memoir, Angela's Ashes, is one of the most celebrated Irish novels of all time. And that's saying a lot when your country of only 4 million has produced the likes of James Joyce, Oscar Wilde, Jonathan Swift, C.S. Lewis, and Bram Stoker. Winning the Pulitzer Prize in 1997, Angela's Ashes recounts the life of the McCourt family, from his early childhood in 1930s Brooklyn tenements to his family's struggles with death, poverty, and an alcoholic father in the Great Depression back in Ireland, and finally, to McCourt's eventual return, escape in many ways, back to America in 1949.
Evelyn Waugh said about the Irish, for the average Irishman, there are only 2 destinations, hell or the United States of America.
But while the memoir ends there, McCourt's story does not. In 1967, the same kid who once begged for food on the streets of Brooklyn would receive his master's degree in, what else, English, from Brooklyn College in 1967. McCourt became a teacher, including for a time at what was then New York City Community College, now City Tech, teaching many of the same underserved members of the community like he once was. While Frank McCourt passed away in 2009, his passion for education has lived on, honored by the city with the founding of the Frank McCourt High School of Writing, Journalism, and Literature, an enduring legacy for this giant of Irish literature. For the record, I'm Ari Goldberg.
Jessica Murray's PhD at the Graduate Center is all about improving access to transportation, especially for those with disabilities. Maria Vami has that story.
I think showing that we have to go 10 miles for the first time.
Jessica's pilot study on behaviors and experiences on public transportation has been supported by a CUNY Provost Digital Innovation Grant.
Currently in New York City, the subway is less than 25% accessible to people who use wheelchairs. So less than a quarter of the stations have elevators. I think it's around 22 or 23%. And then we have a problem with elevator maintenance as well, where about 25 elevators on average every day are out of service at some point.
I plan my route because of the elevators, or I limit myself because of the elevators. I have had instances where I'll get to a station and everybody's flocking to the elevator and that big old sign, out of service, is there. And everybody goes, ah, and then they walk up the steps.
The buses are 100% wheelchair accessible, but they're not accessible to people with other kinds of disabilities, visual and hearing disabilities specifically.
Jessica became aware of these issues personally when she was temporarily disabled. She then dedicated her PhD research to transportation accessibility and also joined activist groups to push for better access.
We started holding protests after the MTA announced the Enhanced Station Initiative plan, where they were renovating subway stations and putting in new tiles and lighting, but they weren't putting elevators in any of the stations. So they were closing stations completely, renovating them, and basically ignoring the Americans with Disabilities Act, which requires that any renovations done to entrances have to be made wheelchair accessible.
A meeting was set up with the recently appointed MTA president, Andy Byford, who vowed to be supportive of accessibility initiatives.
We kind of made an impression on him by presenting him with a gift on his first day at work, which was a map of the subway on a corkboard that had pins that highlighted which stations were accessible and which stations were not accessible. So they had different colored pins, and we said, you know, this map is something that you can change, so we hope that you can, you know, change the colors of some of these pins, and we'd like you to come on a subway ride with us to see what it's like.
And he did. Jessica now hopes her research will provide the arguments needed to change policies.
The argument is always that it's going to cost a lot of money to upgrade the subway and put elevators in every station, and that's true, but there is an argument that we may save money if we don't have to, provide paratransit service to people who could more easily get around with the subway.
As part of her research, called Our Mobility, Jessica uses surveys, interviews, along with other tools to gather as much data as possible and to understand on a deeper level how lives are affected by transportation.
Don't think like, oh, this is not my issue, I don't care. Always think about life. Life happens and you never really know.
The drivers on buses who don't want to pick me up, I've had drivers call me a burden. Drivers lie and say the lift is broken. It's very discouraging. It makes me feel inadequate as a human being.
Living in communities is very important. Being able, to get to places under your own stream and power.
Ultimately, it is clear that access to transportation affects everyone.
If you actually go and watch an elevator in the subway and just see who gets on and off, it's a lot of kids. It's a lot of women with small children, with strollers. It's people with baskets. It's people who are walking slowly that probably have bad knees or a bad back. It's older people, occasional bicycle users. So there's a lot of people that are using the elevators in the subway, and most of them are not wheelchair users. So we're thinking about this whole situation a little bit backwards, and we need to think about it more universally.
To learn more, or if you want to participate in Jessica's paid surveys, go to ourmobility.org. For UrbanU, I'm Maria Vemi.
Some of the kids would turn to me and saying, I had spent a long time, I've been out of school, and this isn't easy for me. And they were probably 20 years old or 22. And I'd say, really? It's rough, isn't it? And they'd say, yeah, I don't remember some of the things I learned in high school. I said, how would you like it if you were my age? And how long I've been out of school. I say to them, you're gonna make it, you'll do well, and before you know it, you'll have your degree and you'll be making lots of money. And they say, yeah, oh, okay.
The Advanced Science Research Center and the Graduate Center have recently launched the Illumination Space. Let's take a look.
What's unique about how science is explained and interpreted here is that we're really telling a new story about science.
I want members of the community to know that right in their backyard, there is a cutting-edge scientific research center that is open to the public.
So the ASRC Illumination Space is just one part of that. We're bringing the exciting science that happens here at the Advanced Science Research Center to the community in which we're embedded within.
There's a lot of different ways, different ideas that are coming together in this new interdisciplinary way.
We worked with our partners at Liberty Science Center to create 6 exhibits that help visitors understand the fundamental principles of each of our 5 research initiatives and also understand how they're interconnected.
Visitors can expect to experience a really immersive environment where they get to explore the world of really, really tiny, small things. But they're doing this with some really cutting-edge technology. Headsets that are measuring their brain waves, and projection, motion sensing technology, and simulations where there's real data from research that's happening right now.
Science is expensive, and we're committed to making sure that we share the outcomes of that investment with the taxpayers who allowed this to happen.
The Graduate Center at CUNY is one of the most diverse science communities that exists in the world. And so it's important to showcase the high level of research, the high level of rigor and world-class science that's happening here, and that students from all walks and all backgrounds can see themselves in that same future.
It was really cool. Like, we got to do these like hands-on activities, and we also got to listen to an expert speak about her life and her projects and stuff like that.
I felt like this job could be something I could do in the future, and it's really fun to work in a lab and do all these fun experiments.
I felt more comfortable about learning about different types of sciences.
We want young scientists to see themselves in the future, to see themselves doing science, to know that science is accessible and fun, and they can follow their own curiosity into it.
Playing in the NBA is not only a dream for kids here in the U.S., but also for athletes abroad. And One Hunter College's documentary chronicles that dream for athletes from Eastern Europe who were recently drafted to play professional ball. Andrew Falzone has that story.
Zach Icovich is the executive director of the CUNY Athletic Conference, and while Icovich is in charge of the day-to-day operation of all CUNY athletics, a recent project has connected him to his roots in career and country.
When I did an internship while I was a student at Hunter College, and I did an internship at NBC Sports, and I got myself involved in the coverage of international basketball from McDonald's Open to the Olympics in 1992 in Barcelona.
Icovich has kept a foot in the media world and was a part of the team that produced a recent documentary called Something in the Water for the NBA and Turner Broadcasting.
The documentary is about the pipeline of talent from the former Yugoslavia to the NBA, going back to the late 80s, early 90s. And it's been, unlike most other places around the world, it's been consistently feeding tremendous talent year after year to the NBA.
The documentary follows the paths of two NBA prospects as they make their way from the former Yugoslavia to the NBA draft at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, and then into the NBA.
So we did a lot of bouncing around and interviews, and that was primarily me. Then we would feed the stuff back to our maestro and Pete Radovich, who put the whole thing together in such a fabulous way. I mean, he's a Baruch grad who played basketball at Baruch and who I worked with. And when I had my internship, I was able to help him get his internship at NBC, and he's been flying high ever since.
Luka Doncic and Dejan Musa are the two prospects, both of whom were up for grabs in the 2018 NBA draft, and both of whom were drafted. Doncic was taken by the Atlanta Hawks, but then traded to the Dallas Mavericks. Dejan Musa was drafted by the Brooklyn Nets and has spent this season as a fill-in in Brooklyn, keeping his skill sharp at Nassau Coliseum, home to Brooklyn's farm team, the Long Island Nets. When you saw the documentary, what was that like?
It was very emotional for me because from that standpoint, when the premiere was on, I didn't saw my parents for like 2 months, and the premiere was in Sarajevo. So I saw the movie over the video chat, so I was like very emotional because I saw my mom and she was crying. So, you know, like every kid, we just want to make our moms proud, you know, and when I saw that my mom was very proud, I started to cry also, so it was very emotional for me.
The documentary is available on Facebook Watch. Just search for Something in the Water. I'm Andrew Falzone for UrbanU on CUNY-TV.
And to end our show, a performance by Jacqueline Baldanza from the College of Staten Island.
And for more information on any of our stories, log on to our website at tv.cuny.edu or check out our UrbanU Facebook page. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next month. Enjoy.
You say you love me, I say you're crazy. We're nothing more than friends. You're not my lover, more like a brother. I've known you since we were like 10. Nah, don't mess it up, talking that only gonna push me away. That's it, when you say you love me, that made me crazy. Here we go again. Don't go look at me with that look in your eye. You really ain't going away without a fight. You can't be reasoned with, I'm done being polite. I've told you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,000 times. Haven't I made it obvious? Haven't I made it clear? Want me to spell it out for you? F-R-I-N-D-S. Haven't I made it obvious? Haven't I made it clear? Want me to spell it out for you? F-R-I-N-D-S. Have you got no shame? You looking insane, turning up at my door. It's 2 in the morning, the rain is pouring. Haven't we been here before? Don't mess it up, talking that only gonna push me away. That's it. When you said you love me, that made me crazy. Here we go again. Don't go look at me with that look in your eye. You really ain't going away without a fight. You can't be reasoned with, I'm done being polite. I've told you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,000 times. Haven't I made it obvious? Haven't I made it clear? Want me to spell it out for you? F-R-I-N-D-S. Haven't I made it obvious? Haven't I made it clear? Want me to spell it out for you? F-R-I-N-D-S. F-R-I-E-N-D-S. That's how you spell friends. F-R-I-E-N-D-S. Get that inside your head. No, no, no. F-R-I-E-N-D-S. We're just friends.